All right, we are up to pitch number 6 out of 7. These are all so great. Next up is Dalkesha, and she's going to be sharing her idea for third grade reading teams. And so let's see, let's make sure she is ready. I think she has a screen she wants to share.
Yes.
While she's doing that, Maya, our timer, we looking good? All right. All right, Dalkesha, whenever you start talking.
Can you guys hear me? There's something popped up. I just want to make sure. Okay. Alrighty. Imagine being an 8-year-old third grader who's excited about going to the next grade with all of your friends. But then you're presented with a test, and the results of this test will heavily influence whether you get to go with all of your friends to the fourth grade. The test encompasses the one thing you've always struggled with, and that is reading. And just like that, all of your anxiety, all of your feelings turn into anxiety. The problem is that more than 50% of third grade students in the Cincinnati Public School District tested below proficient in reading on the Ohio State test. Now, we do have current interventions, but they don't factor in some of the underlying issues, psychological impact of high stakes tests, and teacher turnover. Test anxiety is at the top of the list when it comes to high stakes tests because it can cause severe fears and stress related behaviors and is prevalent in students as early as the third grade. Physical and psychological effects interfere with learning abilities, memory recall, and information storage. But it can also affect one's ability to regulate their own emotions. When it comes to the impact of teacher turnover, that increases the stress load and workload of other teachers. It negatively impacts the overall dynamic of the student teacher relationship, disrupts students' learning process, and hinders the overall quality of the classroom. Now, you may be asking, why focus on third grade? Well, for one, it's the pivotal year for students when it comes to testing. This is the first year that they are introduced to the Ohio State test, the Ohio Achievement Test, to be more specific, and the results heavily influence whether they're promoted to the fourth grade. But more importantly, this sets the foundation for the rest of their academic journey. They move from reading as a subject to learning to read so they can work with all other subjects. And studies have shown that when students struggle to master third grade reading skill set, it increases their chances of being a high school dropout. My solution, a reading team. This reading team will be an internship program for college students in at least third year or higher, majoring in education. There'll be 2 to 3 interns that'll be led by a reading specialist. They will be assigned to an elementary school within CPS. Some of the trainings will include the science of reading, the school's curriculum model. A lot of that will be run by the reading specialist and mindfulness activities. They'll work with struggling readers from the beginning of the second semester of their second grade year through their third grade year, working with the reading specialist to develop and implement a plan, host reading workshops, provide assistance during testing week, and help to teach students about mindfulness activities and positive thinking. There are 2 main goals for this team. One, significantly increase third grade reading scores on the Ohio Achievement Test by improving reading development, providing additional support for students, and improving their social emotional learning skills. Second goal be to change how students view high stakes tests by using research-based mindfulness activities, encouraging and creating an encouraging testing environment. The impact? Well, there's a lot of that. The impact for students will help create a stronger foundation for academic success. It'll improve their overall reading abilities and test scores, teach them how to implement coping skills when they're dealing with a stressful situation, and help strengthen their self-efficacy, which can also strengthen motivation and engagement. The impact on teachers or specialists, it'll help to alleviate some of the stress and pressures they endure. High teacher stress has a major impact on many school outcomes, such as burnout, the teacher turnover, or behavior management. Additionally, it will help to foster more versatile teaching in the classroom because studies have shown that a lot of teachers complain that they have to focus so much on teaching to the test that they don't really get to have a moment with their students, really get to teach them the subjects. For the elementary schools, this will enhance the first year teaching pipeline, help to decrease the teacher shortage, create sophisticated relationships between CPS and universities, cut down on the hiring expenses, and build stronger relationships within the community. It will put back the trust into our classrooms. But more importantly, it promotes the CPS model to educate the whole child. Now, you may be thinking, why me? Well, I'm a former teacher who knows firsthand about the impact. I'm a doctoral student who is majored in education, and all of my research for the past 3 years have been focused on this. I'm a parent of a CPS student, but more importantly, I am a product of CPS. So I know the greatness that we can do. So I'm asking you to let's give our children a fighting chance to be great because as their village, they deserve that much from us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dalkesha. You clearly know your stuff here. Thank you. That was so informative and so well presented. Okay, I think board member Bolton is already off mute, so she wants to jump in here.
Yes. I really like this. As a person that I will have to tell you that I had to take the Walnut Hills test about 80 years ago twice because I can't take tests. I can't. And I think focusing, and the superintendent's heard me say this before, and it's something she kind of discovered about CPS, you have to create the right atmosphere for that test taking day to begin with. And we have not necessarily done that as well as we need to, as the suburbs dedicate a lot of time. And it's not just pressure time, it is feel good time. It is, we believe in you, we can do this, and you're doing it for your school. Test taking is psychological as much as it is, do you know the content? And I like this emphasis because also part of test taking is about relationships and people believing in you that you will be able to do it. So I think it's a great suggestion to spend as much time getting kids emotionally ready as well as intellectually ready to take a test and be ready to see how well they can do and count on them doing well. So I really like this approach, and I think it would be beneficial to us.
Yeah, that's why I put some emphasis on the mindfulness part, so that not only are we helping them with their reading development, but we're changing what testing means. We're changing what it means to them mentally so that it creates a better environment. Because a lot of people do struggle. I know adults that struggle with testing. It's like as soon as they hear the word, they have a whole psychological reaction to it. So that's why it's important to help change their mindset when it comes to testing. As a former teacher, I used to say, think of it as an assessment. I'm just determining whether or not I'm doing good. This has nothing to do with you. It's just me reflecting on whether or not I'm teaching correctly. So yeah, it's a good thing.
Thanks for that. I think we've got board member Morosky and then Superintendent Wright.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I just have comments, no question. Picking up where President Bolton left off, I think this is wonderful. I mean, I'd love to see us not give grades until the third grade, to be honest. Unfortunately, we live in a state that overtests and use those tests to, rate schools by poverty and not achievement, as I know Ms. Bolton is fond of also saying. So I love the idea to address test taking in a state that does overtest from the social emotional angle. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you.
Thank you.
I think I wanted to echo as well. Great job. Wanted to echo as well. I saw it in the chat. The UC Bearcat Buddies program as well, because that's like the basis, some of the conversation that you're having now around what it may look like, rollout looks like. I think secondly, if there is space to broaden the population that's involved, unfortunately, we're seeing fewer and fewer individuals go into education through our colleges of ed. And so some of those may still be able, they're proficient readers, but they're just not necessarily selecting education to go into. So being able to broaden that a little bit. I think the third, I love the mindfulness piece because to the point of working with children, making sure that they're getting what they need. A lot of what we're trying to do in our district is prepare students for the activity, the excitement of the activity, not in a punitive way. And some of that is really about mindfulness. And I'm seeing a lot in the chat. There are a lot of adults that have anxiety around tests. It doesn't mean that you're not smart or brilliant. It's just that that particular thing. I think the last thing I'll say, and I think there's a bit of a touch on this as well, there is no standardized test that is benchmarked on Black and brown kids. And so when you start thinking about that, being able to acknowledge that in terms of thinking about the preparation for it. So great job.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for those great comments and questions from the panel. And Dalkesha, this clearly has struck a chord with lots of folks. So go enjoy the comments. Thank you so much for that pitch. What a great idea.